Hey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mack Flash Five, the show where we like to get together and list our top five movies fitting a certain topic. I'm Matthew. Next to me is AB. Below him is Mike. Next to him is Scott. The four of us make up the Mack Flash Five.
When that
What's
music
up, guys?
plays, I could just sit there and listen to that theme song music. I was like, oh, this is like good background music for like whatever I'm doing.
Ride in an
Say that
elevator.
now, but wait till we're like 100 episodes in. You'll be like,
Right.
can't
No.
stand that stuff.
Yeah, well, that's when you do the remix.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. I like it.
We gotta start. We gotta throw that up on iTunes, make some money off it.
Yeah.
What's the subject today, Matt? What are we talking
Subject today's
Scott's
subject
got somewhere to go.
is
about?
cop movies. Which is a well of thousands of movies, and we've managed to each pick five of our favorites. The show works like this: we after we set a topic, we make our individual lists of five, and we're going to talk about three of those movies in depth, and two will be honorable mentions. AB picked this category, so he's going to start us off. Why did you want to pick cop movies? And then give us your number three.
Oh, okay. Well, I do like cop movies, but I also we were just talking about this before we came on air. There, that knowing the four of us that are involved, I wanted to see what direction each of us would go with this. So I kept it as broad as possible, and so I said the only stipulation was that in order for it to be a cop movie, that the main character / characters of the film had to be cops, so of some sort. And so I wanted to see what direction each of us would take. So I'm going to start off with my number three, and my number three comes from a very well-known action director. He was huge in the 80s and 90s. He made a lot of films in Hong Kong before he made the trek over to America, and that is Mr. John Woo, and this is from 1992, and this is hard
Is it
boiled.
Chow Yun Fat?
There's the elevator music.
Chow Yun Fat
I've only ever heard about this movie.
and Tony Leung.
Awesome.
Is that too loud or is it good?
Okay.
Okay, so Chow Yun Fat and Tony Leung. One plays a regular
That's
cop.
John Woo.
And so Tony Leung plays an undercover cop, and so they're trying to take down this crime boss. And so they end up meeting at some point in the movie, and like all John Woo movies, there's got to be a Mexican standoff where they're pointing guns at each other. And so there's always the five things you always have to have in a John Woo movie. There's the Mexican standoff. You have a scene with doves. You have to have a scene on motorcycles, and I'm trying to think what the other two things are. The slow motion action sequences. But anyway, so Hard Boiled, it is one of the most craziest action films of all time. It takes it to the next level as far as action cinematography and action sequences. It's beyond anything that you could possibly imagine as far as action shots. And like I said, it is the last one before he came to America and started making films in America. It was when he really got noticed in America. It was after Hard Boiled. I like The Killer probably more than I like Hard Boiled, but The Killer is about this is the only one he made before he came to America about cops. All the rest of them are about criminals. There's A Better Tomorrow, and I think he made 3 or 4 before he came. 3 or 4 big ones right before this, before he came to the. And so yeah, he some of the action sequences, there's the one in particular, there's 3 big major scenes into it. So you, in most action sequences or films, you have one really big set piece near the end where stuff goes crazy, and then you have a lot of like minor stuff that leads up to the big set piece. This movie has 3 massive action sequences, one at the beginning, one in the middle, and one at the end. The one in the middle, the one at the beginning, he slides down this like set of stairs, and it looks like he's sliding down the railing, and it's like from a like a side perspective. So he looks like he's sliding down. What he's just kind of doing is leaning on it, and he's shooting guns akimbo. I'm talking about Chow Yun Fat, and so. And the second one, he swings in. There's a warehouse full of dudes, and he swings in, and he's with like a rope, and he's swinging in and shooting. And the third one, and it's the craziest one, is in a hospital, and it more specifically in a maternity ward, and he has a whole gunfight holding a baby. He's holding a baby the entire time. He takes the time to put cotton balls in the baby's ears in the movie, and then he has a huge gunfight holding a baby the entire time. It is bonkers, and
the perfect shield.
Yeah, it's I love it. This movie, it doesn't get crazier than Hard Boiled as far as action goes, and as far as action films go. It's top there. And back in the 90s, you could not talk about John Woo when you talked about action films, and somehow along the lines, I think that he's kind of like gotten forgotten about, and then I think that's criminal. Because John Woo defined action in the 90s. You can go down the laundry list of action movies that he made in Hong Kong and then in America, and I think that he inspired action films from then on out, especially here in North America. Like you could see the effect that his movies had on action movies. And I mean,
yeah.
We're going to be talking about one coming up, I'm sure, on Scott's lifts. But I know for a fact had inspiration from.
But when you say like, so he defined the action films of the 90s, but he also became victim of the fact that like his films seem very 90s. Like,
sure,
you know what I mean? So like, people sort of distance and want to change, and so they took his great ideas and then they ran with them and left him behind, kind of thing.
That's true. That's fair.
His Mission Impossible aged just really well. A lot of people chirp Mission Impossible 2. I think if you hate it, I think Mission Impossible 2 it gets better. Every time, like I rewatched it 2 years ago, and I was like, this movie's not as bad as people make it out to be. It's good.
Yeah, it's one of the very.
I only know it's American stuff.
Obviously one of the few John Woo movies that I actually do not like is
Fair enough.
But I love Broken Arrow, and
way to bring that one up.
Broken Arrow is great. I forgot he did Broken Arrow.
Face Off.
Face Off.
That's what I did.
Yeah. But it is interesting that he did Mission Impossible 2, because if you compare the first one to the second one, the first one is clearly a De Palma movie. The second one is clearly a John Woo movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so that's my number 3.
Excellent. I have not seen that one, or I think Mission Impossible 2 might be the only John Woo movie I have seen.
You haven't seen
Face Off? Wow.
Come on.
You haven't seen Face Off?
I haven't.
Wow.
Come on.
I think
that is
in my top 5 most watched films. In high
Pretty
school, we
sure.
watched it
criminal. It is like Face Off is just for the sheer like insanity that like goes on during Face Off.
It's very fun.
No, I understand, and people have been saying, and I'm sure it's on one of these shelves. I'm pretty sure I own it because I found it cheap.
That is hilarious.
I just have to find it.
I'm pretty sure they give those away now on the corner, street corners.
As they should. It should be in every home. Every
required.
Home Face Off.
It's like Coupon the movie. The judge orders you to. Okay, that's the whole.
I order everyone. Every order. Like when I was a kid, every house had the Frampton Comes Alive record. Like everyone had the and I hate Peter Frampton, but everyone has that and Face Off on VHS or DVD.
Sure. Did you ever try listening to the one while watching the other? Like sort of like wasn't that Wizard of Oz?
I think that's when I call it quits. We're like, no, we're done here.
That's when we can swap faces. All right, let's move along.
We're moving along.
So I took the cop route very differently because I am not a huge fan of cop films at all. I had a handful on my list. I had a debate about what would be honorable and what would make it on the list. But other than that, I was like, okay, I'm going to go a certain route here. I want my cop films to be silly. I want my cop films to be ridiculous. If I'm going to watch a cop film, I want them to be like bumbling idiots or like hilarious, like one or the other. So there are many in this franchise, many. but I'm gonna go with
I knew this is the route you're gonna go, and this is what I wanted because I was gonna put this and another one I might probably make on your list. I was like, should I put this on because I love these?
I'm gonna go with the original.
I knew you were gonna put it on there.
There's something like 6 or 7 of these now. I know they wind up in Moscow at some point, but I gotta go with the original. You meet all of the characters.
What's this movie called?
I didn't want to say it twice, but
I'm getting there.
Okay.
There's 6 or 7 in the series, but when we were talking about doing cop films, and at one point there was talk of doing back to school films. Everyone's going back to school. Andrew and I joked about this Police Academy as being the perfect melding of the two, because these are cops that go to school. So I was like, all right, this is fantastic. Cops that go to school. And it's funny. I've seen these many a time, and when you watch something that's been out, this is from the 80s, right, from 84, and they did them sort of every year basically after that. And you watch some of these when they're on, and you forget which one's which, and they blur together, and you're like, which Police Academy was that? I didn't even realize until rewatching this sort of the premise behind the whole setup on Police Academy. I don't know if you guys remember, which is essentially that the police force decides that to encourage more recruits, they're going to just drop all the sort of rules and stipulations of being in shape, having good vision, like all of the basics that you need to join the force. And that's how you get this weird ragtag. I never thought about why are they the weirdest group of characters, right? But it's such a ridiculous premise, but it's such a hilarious movie. And I don't know, you can't this is perfect Gutenberg, to a T. This is Gutenberg at his height, 3 Men and a Baby, all that's great. But this is perfect Gutenberg. And Michael Winslow, come on, steals the show. We've seen him at a Comic-Con doing his sounds and his voices. Him as
a wedding.
Yeah, him as Larvell Jones, and just the little bits. And he doesn't get to go full out like he does in Spaceballs, right? He's just a little here and there in Police Academy. And then they use him more and more, right, throughout the series. But it's just perfect. I still laughed at every single thing he did and wished I could do it with all the sound effects and everything. But there's little gems in this too. I didn't realize until going back that Kim Cattrall is the main female lead that Mahoney's interested in, and she looks so much younger. That's why you wouldn't place it. And one thing we were talking about the sort of the Berenstain Bears effect or whatever you call that. That I didn't realize that Captain Lassard. I should have pulled up a photo, but he's one of the main guys running the academy there. He's sort of the bumbling idiot. I didn't realize that it was George Gaines that plays him, who is Henry on Punky Brewster, that adopts Punky. I thought all along that it was Lloyd Bridges. In my head, how you have that interchangeable kind of character. So I watched it again. I went, wait a second. I didn't realize he played bumbling characters like that. Lloyd Bridges does that did that all the time. But anyways, this is just a gem, and I'm so happy I rewatched it. And then it made me go, oh, I have the collection of these. I think I'm going to start go down the rabbit hole. Awesome. So that's what I'm going to be doing after this show is done.
How many have you through?
What's that?
How many have you done?
No, I just did one for preparation, and then that's going to be my next thing, sort of truck through. Although the collection, I believe, only has the first 4, which is probably good. I think I'll stop there.
I think 3 is my favorite. I think Citizens on Patrol is 3.
Sure.
I really like that one. But one of the things I love about this is it's got a great villain in Captain Harris. Lieutenant Harris. Sorry, Lieutenant Harris.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Harris is hilarious. He's the perfect foil for those movies, and I love when Gutenberg and them start pulling pranks on them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The megaphone and everything. Yeah. You're right. He's very good. He's very good at being a guy you can't stand.
Yes, and he was a perfect compliment to their shenanigans. And it's I like that it's the thing I always like about Police Academy is it's kind of a mix between Animal House and they got throw Animal House into a cop scenario.
Yeah, Porky's sure. Animal House.
I'm going to piggyback off that. I've never seen a second, and that's if you asked me to describe it, I would have been it's Meatballs or
100% it is.
But cops. Meatballs was the army.
Yeah. No, Meatballs.
Stripes.
Yeah.
Which one was Meatballs?
Meatballs in the camp.
Summer camp.
Oh, so yeah. all the same thing. So that's all I would have done is that. It's like it's a bunch of like quirky characters take over, and I know nothing about it, but is
in the end
all
redeem themselves.
Gutenberg is in every single one. Gutenberg, okay.
I believe he gets up to a certain number and stops.
I feel like that probably makes sense because he became a big star.
He might be in that 4-pack.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And then there's some other ones that are in the first and they don't come back for the second, probably thinking I've got better things to do, and then they realize I can't.
I can make sounds with my mouth.
Yeah, and then they come back for the best. Yeah,
it's cool, man.
My guy is Hightower, Bubba Smith.
Sure.
Bubba Smith is amazing. I love Hightower.
You gotta love your cop films that have a football player in them.
Yeah, there you go. He's a monster.
Wink, wink. Okay, next.
I didn't even think about that one. I forgot all about that movie. Okay, so my number 3 goes in a way different direction than your number 3. Yeah, so I didn't know what I wanted to do. There's 1,000, like we talked about. I had a list of maybe at one point 25 movies written. Some were comedies, some were serious, and some were very, 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 very serious. Some were real life stories, some were obviously made up. I'm going to go hot and heavy, and I'm going to go with my number 3 being what I would consider a true blue masterpiece, 2007, directed by David Fincher, and we're going with Zodiac. Yeah, an actual masterpiece when it comes to crime and hunting and serial killing and detective work. So in this, Mark Ruffalo plays the detective. It's mostly a reporter film with Gyllenhaal and Downey playing the San Francisco Chronicle, I believe, getting letters from the Zodiac Killer. Zodiac Killer, a true story that happened in the 70s of a serial killer who would then go in and taunt and leave anagrams and codes for the public to figure out. And it became this big chase and hunt that to this day has never been solved. And there's 1,000 different theories on who it was and who it could be. One thing I like about this movie does kind of at least dig its heels in and kind of proves one idea on who at least David Fincher considers that it was. But I rewatched this film in preparation for it, and it's almost like 2 movies in one. You get the first half of the movie, which is basically told from the reporter's side. Ruffalo takes over. Gyllenhaal kind of takes over the case in the second one and works as the de facto detective. Funny enough, Ruffalo's character, the basis of Dirty Harry and Bullet as well, which they referenced quite a bit in the film. So he's a real life detective who on this case became very famous for his work, and again, filmed in subsequent movies of it. But it's David Fincher. It's Fincher at his best. You listen to a lot of Fincher podcasts and work, and this one's always high up on the list. The aesthetics are great. It's a very dark and cold film. Long scenes that leave you feeling very uneasy in it. And again, ultimately, it's kind of the story of madness and obsession, where these guys are hunting to their detriment of their lives, trying to catch this killer who, again, like I said, went free. And again, as you see, it's kind of... In Army films, I picked Jarhead due to the fact that that's probably the best representation of war, where it was the boredom and, again, another Gyllenhaal, where it was the boredom and the subsequent monotony of it that was the most impactful thing of that. Whereas with this, that's kind of what cases are like. Cases go unsolved. Nobody really knows. People have an idea, but you can't prove it. And things just keep going on and on and on, and new cases come and people get dropped off it. And you see this movie and you're like, yeah, that's probably most detective and police work, is probably dropped cases and cold cases and things like that. So for that, my number 3, David Fincher's masterpiece, Zodiac. Wish I could have put it higher, but I can't.
Oh, no. I love this movie, and it was so hard to take off my list. It's not making my list because I figured it was going to show up here on somebody else's list, and thankfully it did.
Yeah.
But it is one of my favorite movies of all time, and like you said, it also deals with the newspaper business in a way, and publishing and stuff like that, and media. And the Zodiac uses the media to his own gains in a way. So if we ever do a list about, movies about the media, this would definitely be somewhere on that list.
Yeah, that's why you say that.
I can't wait. I can't wait till I pick my list as serial killer movies, and all of Scott's things off this list don't get to go on to that list.
Why? What do you mean?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just guessing that your other ones are other serial killer cop movies.
No, imagine no. But it's great. It's just I remember seeing this movie in theaters and I didn't quite get it, and then you see it years later and you're just like, holy shit! This is, like I said, the two films together, and the first half a little bit lighter and the second half's darker, and just the aesthetics of it, and it's more set at night later on, and Gyllenhaal's taking over, and it's really Gyllenhaal's next step to becoming like the A-list alpha actor of, I think, our generation, where he takes these great works, and this was, like I said, the first foray into the next level that he did that he's at now. So
it had. Oh man, I got props from that movie just sitting right.
Do you
over
have the
there.
pin?
I might go grab them.
I am not
after
Avery.
I say this.
Okay.
There's a great scene with, well, I guess all the scenes that involve Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
And it was a scene similar to that in Spider-Man Far From Home, where we get to see the older, mature Gyllenhaal. You know, he talks to Peter Parker in this way where we've seen Gyllenhaal act at that age. It's almost a scene like, I was there, kid. I know how to go through this. It's not the same message, but certainly seeing a scene with Robert Downey Jr., who we've seen act since he was, Gyllenhaal's age, move up, share a scene with him, and then Gyllenhaal gets to do that again in Spider-Man Far From Home. I really like scenes like that. I'm going to go grab the thing. And it's a movie that after you watch it, you dive right into a rabbit hole of the actual case.
Sure,
absolutely.
The DVD features are fantastic. Yep. And then after that, you hit YouTube and get, the theories from other people who research the crime, because it's never been solved and it's a hobby for a lot of people in the San Francisco Bay Area.
And Alan Graysmith's the biggest one. That's who Gyllenhaal plays, is the guy who literally wrote the book on that.
Books.
And I thought of this, what's funny is that and Dirty Harry makes a really good double feature too. We had talked about double features and I didn't think about it, and our lists were fantastic. But then Dirty Harry pops up in the film and Ruffalo's pissed off that they're making a movie about it. And again, you're like, oh, that's a perfect microcosm of, watch this movie, here's the story on the movie that took place. I just thought that would be a really interesting 2-pack too.
That's funny.
What do you got, pal?
I got
he's wearing. Oh no, I thought you were wearing it.
Yeah, cool.
Books that Gyllenhaal character uses to solve the Zodiac letters.
Great.
Yes, one of the things I love about I've used Zodiac for one of my lists already. One of the things I love about it is the painstaking detail that Fincher puts into the movie.
Fincher planted trees.
He literally brought in trees. He had trees shipped in because they weren't there anymore, and to ship in and had them planted. He went into mass detail of recreating whole streets, whole sections of San Francisco.
There's a lot
that are no longer there. He sank a ton of money into this movie, and there was a lot of pressure from the company to produce, because the amount of money that he basically, like, they thought wasted just doing all these insane things to recreate this thing, when he could have done it on a set. Doing it on a set, he just did it in person. Like,
there's very famous. Oh, so I'll let Matt go, and then I got two stories quickly.
Well, I mean, yeah, he wasted money planting trees so he can get the effect he wanted, but he's also very good at using CG and green screen properly in order to get the dated effect in the backgrounds for streets and stuff, because you need 70s San Francisco, and you can't do that with 2005 San Francisco standing behind you.
Yeah. There's two things also we'll get out of here on that. Famous for breaking down his actors. He did, I think, 90 takes of the bar scene with Ruffalo and Gyllenhaal, where 90 takes he broke Gyllenhaal because he wanted him to be broken and defeated. And secondly, famously fought with the studio because they wanted this released for December and he couldn't get it under 3 hours. That's why this movie came out in March of 2007. They wanted it as a Christmas 2006 for Academy Award publicity, but he fought them and famously couldn't get it under 3 hours as well too. So I did a deep dive of all that. So he's a dude that digs his heels in, because I think it's 250, digs his heels in, and so exactly. So he's the man for a reason, man.
Okay, my number 3. Mike gave a hint to it earlier, and it's absolutely cop movies with football players in them, or at least one very famous football player, infamous football player, I guess.
Famous for what?
for at this point for playing football. The Naked Gun is my number 3.
And Hertz commercials, famous for Hertz.
And Hertz commercials and commentary, I think, by that time.
Yeah.
Anyways, it stars Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
And then O.J. Simpson is in a couple of scenes, but he's doing a really good job acting.
He's mostly in a coma.
He is mostly in a coma, and he does terrific coma acting. This movie is hilarious. And Scott and I, sometime last week or the week before, we were talking about certain actors who have peaks. This was certainly Leslie Nielsen's peak.
Apex Mountain.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
While he did other movies, and he did 2 more Naked Gun movies, they're not as good as this one. And movies before this, like Airplane, where he's terrific, this is definitely his best performance on screen, including Forbidden Planet or whatever else he's in from like the 50s. But it's a spoof cop movie based on the Abraham Zucker TV show, Police Squad. A lot of people don't know that. They've seen this movie, but they don't know that there was a very, very short-lived TV show about Frank Drebin and the Police Squad.
I was going to say they should do some research and buy the DVD. It's on my shelf too.
I have it as well. It's right there. It's actually next to Police Academy.
I don't know that shit.
Maybe we own the 3 copies in existence.
Oh, maybe. But I don't know what else I can say except that it's absolutely hilarious. Ricardo Montalban plays the villain in it, and he's playing it so straight that it's also funny. And you can tell, well, I don't know what kind of direction he was given, but he's certainly a serious actor and a perfect villain in any movie where he plays one. So he delivers lines flat, dry. He does have that certain charisma, but he's the perfect straight man to the Leslie Nielsen clown.
Well, I'm thinking of that line where he says, he offers him the cigar, Cuban, and then Leslie Nielsen says, "No, Dutch Irish. My father was from Wales." Right, like just those lines, right? They're just
and he gives him like a subtle look, like, all right,
yeah, what?
Which is funny, but so many of the clownish characters also do that. There's at one point, I think George Kennedy comes up with says a line, and Leslie Nielsen looks at him with a weird face. It's like, you've just said something stupid 5 minutes ago. What are you looking at him for?
Yeah.
I can't remember the line, but stuff like that.
Yeah, I know you're talking.
I was going to bring up. I was waiting for you to finish because I was going to bring up George Kennedy. I love George Kennedy in these. Obviously, George Kennedy is a very well-known actor before these, but a lot of people know him from Naked Gun, right? He's in a
Oscar winner before these.
That's right. He's in a ton of westerns. He's in a ton of Oscar-winning performances, and then he goes to Naked Gun, and that's kind of what a lot of people from our generation know him as. He's one of the guys from Naked Gun, and so like I think I always find that hilarious, especially when I see him in an older film. George Kennedy will come up, and I'll just start laughing, even though it's a not funny role. Right? I'll be like,
Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool Hand Luke.
That's right.
It's not a drama. It's kind of funny, but once George Kennedy shows up, it's like, oh, he's gonna give us something good.
Yeah.
No, it's a serious role.
Role, exactly. Anyway, yeah, I'm all about the Naked Guns as well. I just watched them recently at my parents' house. I have them all on VHS there, and I did a little marathon there over 3 weeks.
Is it the one in the sleeve where all 3 of them are in the same?
No, they're all in separate VHSs.
Oh, you don't have it on DVD?
No, I have it on DVD, but I was at my parents' house.
Oh,
the VHSs were there because I watched them because I was at my parents' house, just chilling out there.
There's a really amazing opening scene where he's in Beirut and he takes out all of these enemies of America that are sitting around talking about how they're going to destroy the world. And that's exactly my point. It really doesn't work. It's very dated.
Yeah. It's probably like, if you reflect on the whole film, it's my least. It's like, oh, it's not
takes off.
I gotta rewatch that.
Yeah, it takes off Buddy's turban. He's got like an orange mohawk. I'm like,
what is the worst?
That's the part, and it's funny because that's the part that I totally forgot that because that was like the opening before the credits, and then they do the whole drive through all the weird.
Yeah,
Speaking of like Porky's, right? The car drives through the change room and all the weird things, right? But anyways, Andrew, number 2.
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna go, and we're gonna get a lot bigger now. I mean, like action. We got some, we had some action. We're gonna go. We're gonna go to Beverly Hills.
Awesome
for a little bit right now, and we're gonna hang out with one of the biggest movie stars of the '80s.
So happy,
Axel Foley. Take a trip from Detroit out to LA. Solve our buddy's murder, and we're going to go with 1984 from Martin Brest, Beverly Hills Cop, and one of the biggest theme songs of all time by Mr. Harold Faltermeyer.
It's like number 1 on the radio charts
because it's amazing.
It hit number 1. That's insane.
Remember when like people had theme songs, synthesizer theme songs? When did that stop being cool?
This movie's so sick.
Like, so, and you love there. I know you love that.
Well, that's 2, right? He doesn't wear that coat in 1.
Yeah, I just wanted to find a picture that had the 3 of them in there.
That coat is my number 1 holy grail. Like, it's in my Amazon cart for like $200, and one day I'll order it. That coat is my favorite movie coat of all time.
So we got Axel Foley, we got Taggart, and we've got
Billy.
What's his
Billy
name?
Rosewood.
Billy Rosewood. There we go. Billy Rosewood. I love the interaction between these 3 guys. They get a lot more interaction in 2. Actually, in this film, they take up that interaction a lot more. But I love these 2 guys. They're trying to be good cops, trying to keep it on the up and up. And Axel is just bringing them into the dark side with his shenanigans throughout the movie. And he is doing all kinds of crazy stuff that they are trying not to get involved with. More Taggart than Rosewood. Rosewood, kind of loves it. You can tell he kind of loves it. But Taggart is doing it. But this movie is fantastic. It's one of the all stone cold classics from the 80s. Made Eddie Murphy into an international superstar that can the likes we probably haven't seen since.
That's true.
Like he was humongous at this point. There was 48 Hours that he did before this, and then he did this one and just became a household name. Everybody knew who Eddie Murphy was. And this movie still holds up. It still is a fantastic film. It's still hilarious. I just love how like, even though he's doing all kinds of dastardly deeds, he's always taken care of people around him, like the people that take care of him. One of the things I've noticed lately when I was watching it was that like he's always taking care of the bellhops and the people at the hotel, and like
Damon Wayans, the banana guy.
That's right, the banana guy, and he's whispers thank you, right?
Yeah,
thank you, and it's like taking care of the little guy because he knows, like, he comes from Detroit. He's always down and dirty in Detroit, and he knows what it takes. So when he comes out to LA and he's dealing with all these rich people, he knows what it's like to slum it in Detroit, and knows what these people go through. So I love that. One of my favorite characters in Beverly Hills Cop, and kind of got him the role on one of my favorite sitcoms of all time. My man Serge in this. We're talking about Bronson Pinchot. He is one of the scene stealers for this movie. He is so damn funny in this.
Get the fuck out of here! No, get the fuck out of here. That's such a good.
I love Serge. I love that they brought him back. I think he's fantastic and perfect for that role. And I love hearing stories that he basically got the Perfect Strangers role because of this, little bit part that is in here, and like they basically like wrote the story around him. And so that kind of makes me happy. But anyway, Beverly Hills Cop, my number 2. I can watch it a million times and still love it.
It's funny, the theme, you played the theme there, and it's like, obviously, like franchise themes, Star Wars and all that, but that's, talk about a film that's sort of just you wouldn't expect to be. You hear it and you know what movie it is. You know what I mean?
Good call.
Like compared to like, because this isn't a. I know there's there's multiple in the series, but it's not a big franchise. But it's still such a good theme song. Like I knew you were gonna play it, and I was happy when you did. You know.
Because it, man, and so like it's funny because I made fun of it that, but like what happened to it there was Harold Faltermeyer who did this, and he did the Top Gun theme, which is amazing as well, and then you had Jan Hammer who also was on the charts for the Miami Vice theme.
Oh yeah, that's another
that is another killer track. And then you're like Scott said, we're talking about like music pop charts. These are TV themes and movie themes that are
they're getting radio play.
They're getting radio play.
People are calling in to hear it.
Yeah. And we're like, that is incredible. Like, when did that stop being a thing? Like, then now, like, I guess, like, you make a song for the movie.
Like Will took that and like kind of killed it. But
but like, it doesn't happen anymore. I want to bring it back. I want people to start making theme songs for people and it making the charts.
Yeah,
like bring it back. Bring back the synth. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's a lot of just bringing in like paying for a song that's already written off something, as
or like Deadpool 2 have Celine Dion song.
That's amazing.
I just rewatched Beverly Hills Cop for like the 10th time. It's still so good, holds up. It's great because, and we talked about this, and there's a lot to say about movies that you watch and you're like, this is a tour de force star-making performance, and this is one of the Rushmore, like, point the camera at Eddie, does his thing, and you're just captivated. Like, there's a few movies I can think of that have that as well. I think my number 2 is one of those. But, again, it's just one where it's Eddie's doing a lot of the lifting. There's a lot of scenes. And you talk about how it's The Resident. Well, how about in 2020, the scene when he gets his ass kicked, and then he goes and they apologize to him for their behavior. We're sorry for putting our hands in you. What the fuck are you talking about? You're a cop. It's fine. I'm not going to press charges. It's such a. I'm watching it and I'm like, this scene is so ahead of its time.
Well, not only that, like the scene where they like throw him out the front window.
That's exactly, yeah.
Like,
you arrest me? I got thrown through a window. That's all. That's what I'm talking about. Leading to them apologizing like that joke could play in 2020. Still would play. Yeah.
All right.
2 of my favorite scenes. One, when he's trying to check into the Beverly Hills Hotel.
Oh my God! we gotta call Michael Jackson. We gotta tell him because they don't let.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, that is so.
Is he there to? Is it Michael Jackson and Aretha? Like, is Aretha Franklin too?
No, he just says reservation for Axel Foley, and they can't find it. Oh, Rolling Stone magazine's Axel Foley, and they can't find it. And it's like, oh, just give me a room. It's like, we can't give you a room. It's like, what? I'm gonna have to call Michael Jackson. What is the? I was going to call the article Michael Jackson is sitting in front of the world holding all the children's hands, but I guess we're just going to have to call it Michael Jackson can't get interviewed because they don't let into the Beverly Hills Hotel.
That's so fucking good.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And then the stupid manager coming out, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, situation. Amazing.
And while they're in the strip club and the 2 guys walk in, and then Axel gets up, pretends to be drunk, and he's called Phil. He knocks him off the ground. He doesn't break character. Phil, this isn't like you, man. I love that scene.
Yeah, it's so good.
Okay, Mike, you're number 2.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Wow. There's nothing to see here.
I knew it. I knew it was going to be on. I actually knew I was going to be on both of your lists. So
nothing to see here.
No comments at all.
I should just stop there and pass off the.
I thought that was. I'm like in the back of my mind. I'm like, that's kind of funny. If you nothing to see here. Go, Scott.
Yeah. I'll be brief because you talked about most of it, but I have to say that one thing I don't think you mentioned was the hilariously absurd plot point of Naked Gun, which is essentially the assassination of the Queen of England.
Of the Queen, yes.
And the way Montalban's plan works is somehow they don't explain it. Obviously, how could you? Where he clicks a button and somehow he's brainwashed the person to not know that they're going to be the assassin, and then it winds up being
Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
Terrific.
And that whole baseball, like the thing about Naked Gun is like all the scenes. I can rewatch it because you watch like 3/4 of the movie and you're like, is this the one where the baseball? Because they haven't got to the stadium. Yeah, this is the one. And he's the umpire. When he's the umpire, oh my, see right.
Tremendous.
There's a list coming. Not too far in the distant future where we talk about music and movies. And when they drop "I Love L.A." every time, I'm just like,
my jam, man.
It's a
top 5 favorite song for me, to be honest. I love
and
the
whole they do the entire song over a montage of Leslie Nielsen as Frank Drebin patting down all of the baseball players, trying to find out who the assassin is.
Yeah, just the way. Oh man. Anyways, I won't go too far into it, but talk about like I showed that one clip. Nothing to see here. This is like a GIF and meme producer. This movie, right? Like bingo.
My favorite is the bingo. I use it all the time. Bingo.
Like, all of those things. Like that's all I have to say. But if anyone takes anything away from this, it's I want to reiterate what Matt said. Do yourself a favor. If you've already seen this, don't go see 2 and 3. Find Police Squad, because if you really like 1, it is literally the episodes of Police Squad. Like they're Al and all the characters are in there. All this silly little gags. It all comes right from there. And there's only like, what is there, like 8 episodes or something?
Yeah,
like
it's a very short. It's single season.
And oh my gosh, you will laugh. And we are laughing. But anyway. All right,
fine. I like that quote.
Over to you there, Scott.
Cool. So my number 2, like we talked about, I sometimes don't cue it yet. Sometimes it's fun to watch a film where you see someone, you go, Jesus Christ, that's a capital STAR star-making role. And I talked about for my number 3, it's fun to watch the movies where they're like, oh, this is what policing actually is. And then sometimes it's fun to watch a movie where this isn't what policing is, but this is just entertaining as shit. My number 2, 1988's John McTiernan classic, introducing the world to John McClane, New York police officer to visit his wife in L.A. and terrorists led in his American debut by the great Alan Rickman, for Alexander wept when he saw the breadth of his domain.
Hey, before you talk about it, can we talk about that poster? There's like a whole novel on that poster.
Right.
Well, so that poster, the story of the poster is insane. You guys, the poster, and then they put Bruce Willis, and then he tested because he was known for comedy and moonlighting. So it was just the building, and then this is the 3rd iteration, because then they put the building in hem. It's an insane poster, of course, but it's kind of, that poster is a teaser trailer if I've ever seen it. And but for there were no more worlds left to conquer. Benefits of a classic education. Wanted to finish that quote. My favorite movie quote of all time. This is just an incredible movie. If you want to watch a cop movie, this is one cop on his own. Now he has help from other cops and Johnson & Johnson, no relation. But in essence, this is terrorists, one cop. It's insane that this movie passed so far around Hollywood for years and nobody wanted to pick it up. Stallone famously turned it down. It was written as a Commando sequel and Schwarzenegger turned it down. On paper, this movie is an incredible story of one man saving the love of his life, his wife, who's kind of trying to win back. Rough, gruff police officer with a checkered past who's made mistakes, but when the occasion comes, he rises to the moment. And it's just, Beverly Hills Cop in this or similar movies, it's just star-making turns, and it's immensely enjoyable. Like, if you're talking about the list of, like, generally popular consensus among men and women, but mostly men, Die Hard is universally beloved. And this is a movie you could sing the praises of. It's a movie that is watchable around the year. Again, we were just kind of chatting how you can watch this at Christmas because it is a Christmas film.
Absolutely.
You can watch it during the summer because it is a summer blockbuster. It is timeless. This movie holds up completely. Incredible cast of characters. Again, it's McTiernan doing what he does best. And it's Bruce cracking wise, making cool jokes. He's iconic. He's the definition of iconic, with the beater that gets darker as it goes on, being barefoot, the quotes, everything, the stories. It's an incredible film of a police officer saving the day from terrorists, and there's 100 of those movies. And this is just a cut above. It's got everything that you could love about cop films and action films rolled into one. So
you know how you were talking about it got passed around and everything.
Yeah.
Do you think if someone else, like I always wonder about Die Hard. I don't know if you agree or disagree. He made that movie. And I'm wondering if another person was in that role. I don't know who, but I don't know if maybe it's not a movie we talk about today. Do you know what I mean?
I feel like
I don't know.
I think it becomes another like a long list of action movies.
That's what I mean.
So the interesting thing is, if this was like Cobra and this was Stallone, it wouldn't have the heart and the humor.
That's what I mean.
I think, and like everyone sings the praises of Die Hard that Bruce Willis is balding and out of shape, and that's part of the charm. There's a million things. Like I could sit and talk 30 minutes about this movie alone. That's what's great about him is that he's the anti-hero to a lot of the testosterone-fueled, pumped-up steroid 80s, and he's the opposite. He's chubby and he's balding, and that's what's great to it. So yes, Bruce makes it because of his comedic background, and he's able to crack wise. And it changed the game. You saw Stallone go 2 comedies after this. He did Tango and Cash. He did Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Arnold goes to Kindergarten Cop and things like that. The comedy drama was reinvigorated from this film. And they never got the right dash of comedy to that, and suspense and thrillerness, romance. Honestly, Die Hard is 10 different genres rolled into one. There's incredible stuff between iconic villains, sub characters. It's an incredible film with an incredible story that holds up today. So 1988's Die Hard.
I just got to throw a correction in there for you because you said you received help from a couple of different people, but you forgot my man Al Powell.
Yeah, Reginald Val Johnson.
Reginald Val Johnson,
the man
who's
like technically the hero of the movie.
Yeah,
who has
and like again,
arc.
is an out of shape, black cop, which like when you're talking about like non-typical action people from the 80s, right?
And it's really funny because there's a lot
like
of these...
a middle-aged balding man and out of shape, like a fat black cop.
Yeah. Can we argue he got his role on Perfect Strangers from this, just like your character
from Family Matters?
No, wasn't a spin-off.
He's a spin-off. He was on Perfect Strangers.
Harriet was on Perfect Strangers.
Elevator.
Both of them were. Yeah, because he would come to visit her at work, and then they spun that off onto Family Matters. So I'm like, oh, what next movie are we going to have?
I do want to say it's funny too because now there's all these talks. Like we've joked and said, like, you see in How I Met Your Mother, who was the real Karate Kid? Was it Daniel or was it Johnny? Right? Or who's the actual chosen one in Harry Potter? Is it Harry Potter? But it's kind of fun to think Neville is. Honestly, who's the hero of Die Hard? Because you could say McClane, but essentially the best arc, going back, he couldn't fire his gun because he killed the kid, which, again, holds up in 2020. He felt the guilt. And then finally, he does it at the end and saves the day, saves McClane. He's actually the hero of Die Hard.
And without Al Powell, they just blow the building.
They just
apart.
get away with it. Yeah. And he's
blow the building apart
because
he comes in and is fighting for McClane, right? Because the police chief, which is like they want to go in guns a-blazing, they go in guns a-blazing, everybody dies, story's over.
Man.
Right? And so Al Powell is you're right. Al Powell, man.
Al Powell, justice for Al, man. Justice for Ellis and justice for Al.
Now, you mentioned this movie being a star maker for Bruce Willis, but he was, known in people's living rooms at least because of Moonlighting. He's a familiar face.
It's my dad's favorite show, and I've watched it. I watched it in high school.
My parents love that show.
Phenomenal. And in season 4 and 5, when it really breaks the fourth wall, incredible stuff. But this is movie money. This is Demi Moore playing Hollywood
he also
money.
had a Motown record at that point as well.
But now Die Hard introduces Alan Rickman to the world, essentially.
One of the best movie villains of all time.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Easily.
He's the best.
So good.
Everything that comes out of his mouth, like I said, he's articulate, he's smart, he's ingenious, and he's cold and calculating, and he sets the trend for all other 90s villains that follow. Ed Harris in The Rock, and even Cyrus in Con Air. Everyone's kind of just doing a Rickman impression, and we stand in his shadow. So he's the man in that movie. That's just an alpha, like Ollie Frazier tour de force for both of them.
It's one of the movies. I don't know if it's not a direct correlation, but certainly this was an era where James Bond movies weren't doing terrific, and it's because people wanted to see more of this and less of that.
Good.
And Alan Rickman pretty much being a Bond villain in this movie,
yeah, big time.
is clear. We're on to me. I gotta reset this. My number 3 is 2.
We're going back.
Utah 2.
I wanted it so bad. I tried.
Okay. My number 2. I just remembered that this movie, not that this movie existed, but I was looking at my list and I was like, I watched a few and I was like, okay, this one can go down to honorable mentions. I watched it, I like it, but it's not as good as I thought it was. So what can I use to fill that spot? And this came straight to my mind. There's one guy running, another guy chasing him, but neither one is the bad guy. My number 2 is The Fugitive.
Yeah, nice.
Awesome. Great. Didn't even think about it.
Well, it was on the cusp because Tommy Lee Jones technically plays a Fed. He's a U.S. Marshal, which is a federal organization, but his jurisdiction is solely Illinois, right?
I love
that. So
it's
like, okay, that's a state cop then.
You don't need to convince us that this is a cop movie. We know.
And he gets help from plenty of local authorities in order to try to catch Harrison Ford. This movie was late in. I keep going backstage here. Another list coming up may or may not be movies based on a TV show. This is certainly one of those, but not one of my favorites because I had never watched the Fugitive TV show. So it was between this and another movie, and I was like, you know what? This is gonna be my number 2 because I don't think I can fit this anywhere else on another list. If we did like top 10, it's not there. Certainly like top 20 or 25, but we don't go that deep on our show. But it is one of my favorite movies of all time. Harrison Ford, like when we talked about Leslie Nielsen and his peak, Harrison Ford, his peak is high and he stays there for like a decade at least.
I'd say more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say you get a solid 80 to 96. Where's his apex? I think he's churning out every other year. He's got about 9 movies in that 16 years.
Yeah. So basically, the movie is he's accused and tried and convicted of killing his wife, which he didn't do. It was the one-armed man,
of course,
which for since the movie, at least the movie's inception, and probably even before that, the show became a joke for everybody. It's like it wasn't me; it was a one-armed man. People started blaming one-armed men. It's a hilarious joke.
This is going to actually make
all the time.
This is going to make my top 5 movies about one-armed men.
Oh,
so
right.
Just so you know.
Does Kingpin count?
Sure.
I'm ruining my list.
Kingpin too, right?
So in the midst of some prisoner transport, the bus he's on train crashes. They collide, and this is when we get introduced to Tommy Lee Jones, who delivers his Oscar-winning performance as Deputy Samuel Gerard, and he is perfect. So much so that when they want to do a sequel, they don't follow Harrison Ford. No. They follow Tommy Lee Jones.
They do the same movie twice. So that they bring in Wesley.
And then add Robert Downey Jr., which was really good at the time.
It was a good movie.
It's an all right movie.
I like it.
Right. But I mean, I can go on about how Tommy Lee Jones is amazing. His vocal, I mean, obviously his voice is familiar, but to this, his rapid speaking is his cadence is on point. I would love to see outtakes. I want to know if he ever flubs those lines, because he makes it so seamless.
I love don't let him give you a shine about your ponytail.
Yeah.
That's one of the funniest lines.
But I wouldn't want to attempt something like, I need to cordon off 10-mile radius, and I want every farmhouse, hen house, and dog house searched in that area. hilarious.
Yeah, but you're right. Like the delivery, you can't picture someone else giving the same delivery.
Yeah.
You know, like
he just commands the screen the
Yeah.
entire time. Even when Harrison Ford's on there, he commands the screen.
which is what you need, right? You need
Yeah.
big personality
That's
to
the
combat,
best.
right?
Yep.
And
I was
like I don't
watching
have
this-
Heat on my list, sorry, but this is very much like that same kind of
Yeah,
formula
too
before
big.
2 years
Yeah.
before Heat. But
Sure.
like there's nothing better than watching, like I said, Ollie Frazier. And maybe Die Hard and that was probably a bad example because they were both kind of beginning. This is Ollie Frazier. You have monster names. You have Jones, Ford, 1993. That's insane. So like that's exactly like the I didn't kill my wife, I don't care scene. And that's like relatively one of the few times they're on screen together and you're just like captivated. So no doubt, man. That's a great, man. Awesome.
I was watching this just to close off. I was watching this with my girlfriend, and she was rooting for Tommy Lee Jones. She's like, "Yes, catch him."
Well,
And I kept saying he didn't do it. It's like,
well, but he's doing his job.
It doesn't,
exactly.
It doesn't matter because
he can kill his wife. He doesn't care.
Like if he catches him, and it gets proven that he's not, then that's fine. But like,
because his job isn't.
He's not a bad guy.
Yeah,
he is doing his job, and his job is to catch him.
The lawyers will sort it out. The lawyers will sort it out. He's got to catch the guy
completely.
Which was a point she kind of brought up. It's like, aren't lawyers supposed to do this kind of job? I was like, if they were good at their job, he wouldn't be in jail right now.
That's right. Yeah.
I think there's a famous story on that movie too, where they wanted him to start off clean shaven and grow a beard as the movie goes, and then the execs were like, Harrison Ford's so handsome, we can't
don't hide it,
cover his face.
Right.
So that's why he starts with a beard and then shaves it off so he can be Harrison Ford the rest of the movie. But I think the original idea was that he would grow a beard, and they're like, that's ridiculous, it's Harrison Ford.
But they could have done like the sort of just like that 5 o'clock shadow kind of like not like full like grizzled. He looks good.
You know what's great about that movie too? I love the Chicago St. Patrick's Day. That stuck with me. Like that's an awesome set at the end. Like that's really iconic.
For sure.
Cool. That is my number 2.
All right, honorable.
Now it's time for our honorable mentions.
All right, so we're gonna go to mine. And mine is my own first honorable mention's been mentioned already, and that is Tango and Cash from 1989.
Weird. It should be so much better.
It is ridiculous. It is a ridiculous film, but I love it. It's one of the few Stallone movies I actually love a lot, and mostly it's because of Kurt Russell.
The poster's cool. I just want to say the poster's cool. They're both cool as shit. Ramble's a pussy, but the cross-dressing and Terry Hatcher.
Oh my gosh!
What movie is this? It's so insane.
All right, keep it moving. These are honorables. Keep it moving.
And love The Departed.
Yeah,
from 2006.
I like it. Then it's silent for that one. Okay. Whoa!
Oh, so you're one. Okay. I can't wait. Cannot wait. One of my favorite movies.
Whoops. Okay, honorables for me. Fargo is on there, of course. And my little known favorite, well, not favorite, but honorable, was starring, and he would normally never make one of my lists, but starring a gentleman that was on one of Andrew's honorables, Copland with Stallone.
I just rewatched it too.
I figured that was going to make it higher.
I like it, but I wasn't going that route with my top 3. But Copland is a fun. Like, it's a really cool watch you don't expect. A lot of people don't know what it is. They've never heard of it. Yeah. But you got Ray Liotta, Harvey Keitel, you've got De Niro and Stallone. Like, you got a big cast.
It is a fantastic film.
Yeah. I rewatched that Saturday night, and I wanted to, but it's just, you're right, it's just good. Like, it's Stallone's frumpy, but yeah. I
mean, it's really, it's cops, you know what I mean? If you want to, it's the behind
Copland,
the scenes.
they lived there, yeah.
But
my 2 honorable mentions, I talked about Heat. I think Heat ages a little poorly, so I'm going to go with a movie that does the same stuff much, much, much better. And I'm going American Gangster.
Mm-hmm.
Love American Gangster.
Great.
And my other one, I wanted to shout out a movie with cops that really blew my mind when it first came out. And I'm happy to talk about it today. And I'm going Gone Baby Gone.
Yes.
And I love Gone Baby Gone. And Ed Harris in this movie. Jesus Christ, Ed. You're the man. Awesome. So those are mine. American Gangster, Gone Baby Gone.
My honorable mentions. RoboCop.
Yeah, yes.
I was
you already used RoboCop for another one, or else it would
I thought so. I was like,
100% would have made mine.
And one of my movies that when you said cop movies, I was like, this is going on the list. It was number one until I rewatched it. And
that's great.
It's still a terrific movie, just a little bit dated and not my speed anymore. Serpico.
Oh, Serpico's amazing. I just watched it recently. Yeah. It's fantastic. Actually, it's funny. I just watched a movie for my other list that's coming up that has Serpico in it.
And... So did I!
I know.
Yeah.
Serpico the play.
I know exactly. I watched it too. It's on my list too.
All right, excellent. So we'll talk about that in another episode.
I love that movie. I love that movie.
So let's move. We're going to talk about my number one. Surprise. I mean, this is going to kind of shock you guys. You will not have seen this coming unless you were paying attention.
Unless you were watching.
I'm so thankful we don't have to restart the episode like last
time. This is in my top 10 films of all time. This is the reason why I picked this film. Why I picked this category, because I love this movie. We're talking about 1997 from Curtis Hanson, LA Confidential. This film is amazing. I've loved this film since I saw it in the theater in 1997. It is a tour de force of acting. The script is a banger right from the start, and I just love the progression of the story from the character. Oh, I'm gonna go and see my man Dave DeVito here. It's got an all-star cast. You're talking like the Hollywood of the Hollywood that's involved in this film. And the story basically revolves around three cops, and you have the goody cop, just Guy Pearce. You have the bad cop, which is Russell Crowe, and you have the Hollywood cop, which is Scott's favorite,
Jack Van Sens,
Kevin Spacey. And so you have your three different kinds of cops that are involved in this thing, and they're all at the far spectrums of what it means to be a cop, right? You have your guy who's trying to be trying to do all the right things and trying to do everything properly. You have the guy who's doing things effectively, but he's also shading the lines where he's not doing everything properly. He's getting himself in a lot of trouble because he's beating up guys who beat women and like doing things that are shady in the law's eyes. And then you got a guy who's basically not even a cop. He's just there basically consulting for the Hollywood, and basically there as a showpiece, and who's not actually doing much actually policing. And so there is a scandal that's involved in Hollywood, and the three of them combine and come together and work together to solve what's going on. And I like that story that that everything isn't as black and white, right? That there are the grays involved. And one of the best lines is at the end when Guy Pearce says to Russell Crowe, "Thanks for the push," right? Because being the perfect cop, right, and trying to do everything perfectly wasn't as effective, and he couldn't do what needed to be done. He had to do things a little bit underhandedly to do what needed to be done. And so I won't spoil for those who haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, why not? Because it's amazing. But if you haven't seen it, I won't spoil what happens in it. We've got James Cromwell here, who's the captain and who's amazing in it. I love James Cromwell. Whenever he pops up, he's always fantastic, and he is fantastic in this.
He had a hardcore run from Babe to this. Yeah, he did some
and
good
like
stuff.
he's every time he pops up, he's incredible. I always love when he pops in, and this is my favorite of his roles because he plays it perfectly. I love the story, and the story's based on a book by James Ellroy, which I have in my library there, and it's a little different from the book, but it's still amazing. It's the story is fantastic. So that is, like I said, it's in my top 10 movies, period. Not just my cop films. I love LA Confidential, so that is my number one cop film.
Amazing. Scott, what do you have to add?
No, I'm so happy. I watched it last year, and again, I watched it last week. It's incredible. I wanted to put it in. I know we just did double features. It was in my number one, for double features, I paired it with Training Day, and I think that makes an incredible rewatch. They both could have been on my list. I feel like I avoided it only because I did talk about it, but it would be my number one by far too. And the same as you. It's in my top 10, 20, and that. It's an incredible story. It's just, like I said, the character work. Guy Pearce. Guy Pearce is my guy, man. How did he not become a bigger star? He's incredible in this, and it's probably one of his first American films because he's like, I think he's Irish, and
is he Australian?
Australian, maybe. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So he probably just came to America. He should have been a megastar. He's got an incredible look in this film, and yeah, it's the same thing. I believe it lost the Oscar to Titanic. What a year that was! But again, as it goes on,
also one of the many reasons why I hate the Oscars. I was obviously very much
really good
movie. Titanic is
really good. But again, Love LA Conan. So happy it was number one.
All right. Let's move it along here. So, keeping in tradition with the humor of my cop films, I'm going to go with one of my top directors as well, and that is Mr. Edgar Wright, 2007's Hot Fuzz.
Fantastic.
There was no doubt, and this is what guided my whole category as far as humor. And this is such a bizarre film. So much so I rewatched it with my wife, and she's like, I don't remember these things happening. And because it's there's two films there, right?
Yeah.
There's this sort of old, English, he gets promoted to sergeant because he's too good at his job in the city and they want to get rid of him and send him off to the country. And it's just, he's in a little village with all the old, English types and old people. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, did this just turn into a horror movie? And that's somewhere in the middle. And then boom, it's like shoot 'em up action cop film. And you'd think if you hear that on paper, you think that maybe, it's all over the place. Like it's all over the map, but it's done so well. I mean, I love Edgar Wright with his cuts and his music and, obviously, I love him from Scott Pilgrim, but, the breaks and the surprise twists and all the things that happen that I won't give too much away are hilarious. Like in true fashion of this series, they call it the trilogy, right? The Coronado trilogy, I think is what they call it through him, with Shaun of the Dead and what is it, The World's End.
Yep.
And all the beats, all the humor, it's all there, but it's in the middle of this cop film. So I'm watching this thinking, well, this is my number one for a cop film because I'm enjoying it because it's so hilarious and fast paced. I love those cuts like Snatch, those like jump shots and everything. Nick Frost is absolutely hilarious as Butterman in it, like absolutely to a T. And the way his character develops is really cool too. But Scott would appreciate, and I don't know, you've seen it, right?
Yeah,
Scott?
Of course. I can't wait.
How much do you love?
Do they watch and are
how much
with?
That's what I was gonna say. How much do you love?
You're number one.
How much do you love? Not only that they're, and I wouldn't say they're obsessed with it. Butterman's obsessed with Point Break and Bad Boys 2.
Yeah.
Right. But the best part, and it's not that they just watch it because that's hilarious that they're sitting there watching those films in the film, but that towards the end of the film, they recreate parts of them. Like when Butterman's on the ground and he sees his dad and he starts shooting the gun into the air. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So when they start doing homages to those two films, you're like, okay, this is a cop film honoring cop films, right, within it. And it's like, for me, is the perfect one for this category. It's and really like good. just fast paced. Like it's a little bit longer, but it's like it moves, so I quite enjoy that. So that's my number one.
I love the twist. And it has it's almost like a murder mystery, right?
Yeah,
like it's a horror movie, but it's also a murder mystery, and like the twist is so ridiculous. But like, one of the stars about it is I love the turn that Timothy Dalton takes in it. Like you bring in Timothy Dalton, and he's got the look, right, and then like he's so like sneering and like. Well, it's so funny. Like I love it. I love it.
So I was talking to my wife about it because I tend to watch a lot of the films, but she tends to watch and read all the behind the scene type things and all the little documentaries on things. And she was saying that Simon Pegg was saying that when they wrote this, because Pegg and Edgar Wright wrote it together, and when they wrote it, they didn't write down character names; they wrote actors' names. I want this is going to be Dalton. This is going to be, you know what I mean? And they wrote all of the different old British actors because it's cameos like crazy.
Like the guys who send them off are Bill Nighy and Steve Coogan.
Yeah, and you got Martin Freeman. Yeah. So it's like all of these the who's who, right? So anyways, that's number one. And let's segue into Scott's
my number one. We ride together, we die together. 2003's Michael Bay directed Bad Boys 2 easily is my number one. So a little behind the scenes, and I'm more talking to these guys. This would have been probably my number 3 on sequel list, but I try and say I want to use movies if it can be a number 1 down the road, right? Because we try and only use the movies once. As soon as AB said cop films, I was like, well then, there's only one movie that blew my mind in theaters that and this is even when I didn't have a car. It came out 2003. I had seen this movie 4 times in theaters, I believe, and I was obsessed with it that summer. Bad Boys 2 is my number 1 favorite actor of all time. He will be my favorite actor until the day I die, Will Smith, at his most coolest. And he has famously said that Mike Lowry is him if he was allowed to carry a gun, and it is him at his coolest, most charming, badass, everything. This is cotton candy to me, this movie, and it is Michael Bay. It looks beautiful. The explosions are incredible. The characters, the story. It's not for everybody, but again, it takes a relatively good Bad Boys 1. Takes about 8 years to get the sequel, and then when it does, it becomes this entirely new thing. This bombastic, glazed, fast-paced, like supercharged MTV movie video film. And again, you get Marcus Burnett and Mike Lowry solving a case of drugs coming in from Cuba to Miami, and it just is a pretty generic story, but it's their interaction, their social play. Joey Pants is the police commissioner, and how they all interact. You introduce Gabrielle Union as like the pseudo love interest, Martin Lawrence's sister, and again, it's just this incredible hodgepodge that to me is the quintessential cop film. It's cops being badass and shooting and being cool and going undercover and shooting shit with their other competitors in the police force, and it's just an eminently rewatchable film. It's 240. It's pretty big, and there's no part where I'm like out on, because every set piece from when it starts with the KKK rally and goes right through to the chase scene, which is probably my favorite chase on film. If we ever do a favorite chase scene on film,
we gotta do that.
Yeah, that's exactly one of the lists I wrote down is chase scenes, and that scene from Bad Boys 2 is an incredible chase scene as it goes through the film. It is my perfect cop film. It is one of my favorites, one of the best sequels I've ever seen. Bad Boys 2 is easily my favorite cop film.
And that was the one we knew hands down.
Yeah. Lock of the century. And I love Bad Boys for Life, too. I'm a big Bad Boys for Life fan.
I was just going to say, like you said, Bad Boys is okay. Bad Boys for Life, I did not enjoy at all. But
nobody did.
I will ride or die with Bad Boys 2.
Thank you. Bad Boys 2 is an awesome.
It's so insane. Like it's so like in like it's
they hide in dead bodies.
It's Michael Bay times 10,000.
Yeah,
like
it's Michael Bay.
It's the Bayest of all Bays.
It's the Bayest. It's Bay and Bruckheimer. It's like Bruckheimer finally realizing that Bay makes money and pouring money in and been like,
100%.
Bruckheimer being like, let's get nuts.
Yeah,
and that's what it is. And like they hide drugs and dead bodies, and like there's like the titty scene. Put them to like it's insane, man. Yeah. And it's just like I said, it's Will being as cool as he's ever been in a film. What are you, a cop or a model? 14-year-old Scott just shooting it in mainlining Mike Lowry in this film,
which is going to bring me to my only point of the movie, because I started watching it. This was a few months ago. I turned it on and then I had to go do something, so I turned it off. I haven't finished it, but you just talked about Will Smith. Is he a cop or a model? Right. I want to take a look at this poster here.
Look at that poster.
But Will Smith, I think he might have made this poster. Because clearly it's him, right? And then producers or director or somebody had to be like, Martin Lawrence is in this movie too, right?
Yeah, but Martin.
I think they photoshopped him in. I think
he is. Look, you can see my cursor here. His legs are missing.
Yeah, they do look like they're not there.
Yeah.
Martin Lawrence's legs are missing because he's just airbrushed in the back.
Don't even care who's looking at those legs. It's all Will, baby. That's awesome.
Amazing.
I say this to you every week. I say this to you every week. I'm like, come over right now. We'll watch it. That's literally, and Bad Boys 2 is the most I've said. Come over. Well, I'll watch it right now.
All right, Matt, what you got?
What's your number one?
Let's see. I'm doing Scott's picture, so I gotta take this one down, bring mine up. My number one has been mentioned already.
Ooh.
And it was after Serpico fell off the list, I was like, well, then this one moves up. This is certainly my number one. I'm just not gonna bury the lead here. It's The Departed.
Yeah,
I really love this, and but my number one is kind of a cheat because I can't mention this movie without also mentioning the Hong Kong original Infernal Affairs.
Sure.
Because what I like most about of this movie and that one is the story. The story and the plot points are essentially the same. So they have to go hand in hand. But I saw the trailer for The Departed and it must maybe on YouTube, in the theater, on TV or something. I saw it and I said, that's winning Best Picture. It doesn't matter what else is coming out. This is winning Best Picture. And it has October 06 on here. I don't think that was the release date.
It came out August. I 1,000% know it came out August.
August? I thought it was like February.
No, it was an August release. I remember seeing it in the summer.
Really?
I think so. Let's take a look.
Yeah, we have to double check. I thought it was February or March because I remember movies that come out early in the year like that don't get a whole lot of, they get forgotten when Oscar time comes around, like the following January. So I was like, oh, that's going to hurt it. And then when it came out, and then when Oscar noms dropped and they had like 7 or 8 of them, I was like, yes, it's winning Best Picture. And then it went through and nearly did a Schitt's Creek sweep of the Oscars.
Let's not reference it that way. Let's call it what
didn't win. Wahlberg didn't win.
Wahlberg didn't win. That's the only one
it says
it missed.
Here September, but I don't think that was right. It says
I remember catching it in February.
Well, we've all confirmed it's not October.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got 2 cops in the movie. Matt Damon is a cop who's going through the police academy, and he's the undercover mole for Jack Nicholson's crime organization. Almost parallel to him is Leonardo DiCaprio, who's in the police academy, and he goes undercover inside Jack Nicholson's crime organization. So it's almost like, I don't want to call it the definitive cop movie, but for me it is. And the more I watched it the other day, and in this last watching, it wasn't as good as the first time I saw it, for sure. But there was a lot of choppy, or I just want to call it not good dialogue in the movie. A lot of it seems like they're trying to ad-lib or make it up on the spot, and it's really not working for them. Which is why I want to mention Infernal Affairs, because even though that movie's in Cantonese, you have to watch it with subtitles. If you've seen The Departed, you can sit down and watch it, almost just as clearly, because all of the plot points are the same without any of that really trying to be funny dialogue. Some of the characters are separated. I think in Infernal Affairs, there's like the Damon character's fiance, there's the undercover guy's psychiatrist, and an ex-girlfriend. Clearly, they melded all 3 of those together for the, what is her name? Vera Farmiga.
Farmiga.
Yeah. So they took all of those characters and put her to one character for The Departed, which is too bad. Yeah, I don't know what. What was that, AB?
She's hot.
She's very hot in that movie.
Very hot.
But yeah, Jack Nicholson, he's Jack Nicholson in the movie. I've heard interviews.
He's all right. He's okay in the movie, man.
But that's exactly.
I'd say he's like the out of everyone's involved, that he's like the least enjoyable.
But which is exactly my point. Mark Wahlberg is certainly a scene stealer, and everybody else is okay. This is not the best performance from anybody else. I've heard interviews of Matt Damon talking about, like I was saying, Jack Nicholson pretty much making up dialogue on the spot. He'd bring Martin over there. It's like, yeah, I could say it this way, or I could say it this way, and then add like 3 more things, and they would cut it together as best they could to, complete a sentence, I guess. But in spite of all that, I still love this movie. It was the first DVD I bought on Steelbook, and I've yet to upgrade it to Blu-ray because I love this case so much. I might buy the Blu-ray and just put it in the DVD case. The Departed, my number 1. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I like you said with Wahlberg. Wahlberg is easily the best thing in this dingo.
Best part of the movie.
Everything he says in it, you're like, I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guy. You're like, the best. I want to use that. I'm waiting for the opportunity to use that line in real life. Like, I'm sure possibly it could have come up at work or something like that. But I need to use that line in somebody. But even obviously the perfect ending of with him walking with the little booties, and
he's a character created for this movie because he doesn't have a Hong Kong counterpart.
And Infernal Affairs, there's a second prequel, and the third is a sequel where the Damon character gets away, and the third movie is all about the investigation.
Interesting.
I need to see those. I haven't seen those yet. But
I felt like such a cinephile when they came out. I remember I watched all 3 and I own them. And then people were like, The Departed, and I was like, well, let me tell you guys, it's nothing like the Hung. I felt like such a fucking pompous dick. That's why when the twist happens and the James Badge Dale character gets injected in the 3rd act, I remember being like, everyone's like shocked. I remember being like, happens in the Hong Kong one. I knew I saw that coming. So I felt like such a big deal.
The other shout out I want to give to is Alec Baldwin.
I was just gonna say, is my second favorite part of that.
He is fantastic in there too. Like every line. Like I remember reading about the casting, and they wrote things specifically for certain people, and they wanted to get Alec Baldwin for it.
Well, it's famous too. If you listen to the Rewatchables episode, I think they had Wahlberg for like 6 days, and they're like, I can do 6 days, and then he had to go shoot whatever else he was shooting at the time. So they shot all those scenes at one, and they like fast loaded his stuff and then he was gone. He was on set for like 4, 5, 6 days max. So yeah.
Yes, I love.
I should have put it. It was on my list too. I just kind of talked myself out of it. I wanted to give a shout out to the others. It's incredible. It's the cop film. It's great. It's their lives, everything.
So now this makes me wonder: do we go to top 5 firefighter movies next, or
there's only one that we're talking about?
No, there's not. Okay, one. You're talking back.
No, don't say them in case
Ladder
we do
49 and Frequency are both really good.
I'm good with
that's my 3.
Kurt for life.
All right, well, that's our list of cop movies, anyways.
And firefighter movies.
Apparently,
my list of 3 firefighters.
There are 5 fighters in The Departed too. Matt Damon doesn't like them very much.
Oh, that's right.
If you win rugby of all sports, if you win in rugby.
I guess thanks everybody for watching, and thank you guys for having your list. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video. It really helps out the channel. Don't forget to go to wearitproud.ca for all your Mack Flash merch. And do not forget to take the Mack Flash 5 quickie quiz later today. They'll be asking questions just about the movies we talked about. So you watch this, study for a few minutes, hit IMDb, Wikipedia. You probably get the answers right off there. When the quiz hits, you'll be prepared. And also write down your top 5 lists in the comments. There are a million cop movies to select from. I know everyone watching can pick 5 and write them down. Other than that, if anybody else has anything else to say.
Until next time.
Bye, LB. Thanks for watching.
Hey, our last video got like 25 in just a couple of days. 25 views in a couple of days. We'll see.
Superstars.
Thanks for watching.